state of Ohio, and I am a manager of Africancentric Services at the North Center. I've been counseling since 2011, and I have experience working with children, adolescents, and adults. I also have a certification in child-centered play therapy through NIAR, which is the National Institute of Relationship and Enhancement in Maryland. Has the pandemic increased the anxiety level of your child? Is mask wearing, social distancing, and all new restrictions creating stress? Or has your child always been anxious and you are eager to learn some new strategies to help your child or children? If you answered yes to one or more of these questions, then you are not alone, and this presentation is for you. Today, I want to start by talking about the objectives of tonight. So one of the objectives is to gain a better understanding of what anxiety is, identify the signs of anxiety to see if your child may be struggling with anxiety, discuss practical strategies families can utilize to help a child who is struggling with anxiety. And under that, these are the different things that we want to discuss. Understand how creating and providing structure can help reduce and alleviate symptoms of anxiety. Learn and develop positive coping skills to reduce those symptoms of anxiety. And 3, develop and implement an action plan to reduce and/or alleviate symptoms of anxiety in your child. In 2020, our world as we knew it was turned upside down. Many people were excited and looking forward to new opportunities taking place in 2020. However, no one was expecting that the world would be hit with a pandemic such as the coronavirus that would have an effect on the entire world. The coronavirus, as well as other contributing factors such as racial and political tension, loss of family and friends and jobs, have contributed to the increase in anxiety in people, not just only children, but adults as well. We all feel anxious from time to time, and we have normal levels of anxiety in which the amount of anxiety is intermittent and is expected based on certain situations and events. However, today, we are going to discuss the kind of anxiety that interferes with many life functions. Anxiety is an emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and physical changes like increased blood pressure. People with anxiety disorders usually have reoccurring intrusive thoughts or concerns. They may avoid certain situations out of worry. They may also have physical symptoms such as sweating, trembling, dizziness, or a rapid heartbeat. And this is adapted from the Encyclopedia of Psychology, the American Association of Psychology. So, like I said, there's normal levels of anxiety that we experience, and we all have anxiety from time to time. But the type that we want to talk about tonight and look at is the ones where it causes consistent fear, consistent worry. It seems like the child's mind is racing, not able to control the anxiety levels. It interferes with their schooling, interferes with home life, their social life with their friends or family. So we want to make sure that hopefully tonight you'll get information that'll show you like some signs and symptoms that you might be seeing your child experience. So hopefully that will help you a little bit more. So common signs and symptoms that your child may be struggling with anxiety. One, like I said, is excessive worry and fear. With small children, you might see kids being worried or fearful about a few things, but when you see that every day, all day. It's a continuous thing. No matter what you do with your child, they just seem to always be anxious and fearful of something. Then it might be a sign that they're struggling with clinical anxiety and may need some help. But there are other factors along with it. It's not just the worry. Inability to control the worry or fear. You know, they try to change their mind. They try to do something different to get their mind off of it, and it just seems like it's never going away. Difficulty with focus and concentration. And I know right now, many people are having difficulty with focus and concentration because of COVID and what's going on. Their mind seems to wander. But like I said, when we're looking at anxiety in a person, we're looking for not just one symptom. We're looking, in order for it to be considered a clinical situation, there has to be a number of things that says that these are the symptoms the child is portraying or having. And then we look at that and say, okay, these are enough criteria to meet a diagnosis for anxiety. Irritability. Eating disturbance or sleep disturbance. Maybe for your child, they used to have a normal appetite and seems like now all of a sudden either they're not eating at all, or when they eat, they get sick from eating all the time. I mean, because they're not eating well, or they might eating excessively. Sleep disturbance, having difficulty falling asleep or remaining asleep. Fatigue, feeling tired all the time. No matter how much sleep they get, they just seem like they're not rested. And then somatic complaints, headaches, stomach aches. Some people have like aches and pains in their bodies, like their neck might hurt or their back might hurt. And the same thing with children, they say some of the same complaints. So you want to look and see, is my child, are they struggling with any of these symptoms? And if so, you want to keep track of those symptoms to see how long it's happened, how often it's happening, and how long it's been going on. You want to also see, has there been some situations changed that may be causing some anxiety? Some practical strategies families can utilize to help children who struggle with anxiety. One is to provide an atmosphere of peace and calm. Like I said, one of the things that children struggle with when they have anxiety is being fearful and the uncertainty of things, when they're not sure what things are going on. So having an atmosphere where it's peaceful and calm, when there's a lot of noise and a lot of startled reactions and people moving around and stuff like that, can also add to the child's anxiety and fear. So it can increase it. So you want to have a place that's calming, that's peaceful, where they can relax. Limit the news coverage regarding COVID-19. I don't know about many of you, but it seems like every time you turn on the TV, every time you turn on the news, you read the newspaper, there's something going on about COVID. And I think the reports, a lot of times you hear about how many people are getting it, but you don't hear about how many people are recovering from it. You hear about people dying, and that is enough to make adults anxious. So limiting the amount of coverage regarding COVID-19 for your children, you sitting down, explaining and talking with your children about COVID-19 will help them. But like I said, being very careful to guard their ears and their eyes about what they're seeing when it comes to COVID-19 and the coverage. Be sure to check your own level of anxiety and depression and irritability, because your children can feel when you're upset or when you're anxious. And then if they know that you're feeling that way, it can also contribute to their amount of anxiety and depression and irritability. So you want to check yourself and make sure, see where you're at, check your levels. Also, by you doing that, you're also monitoring yourself, being aware of your symptoms that you may be having. And then also, if you're experiencing anxiety, depression, or irritability and anger, you want to make sure that you're utilizing positive coping skills to decrease those symptoms. And also, if you are, you'll want to seek professional help with that also as well. And that will be modeling for your children that it's okay to get help if you are struggling with anxiety, and also utilizing the coping skills that you'll learn. So we'll talk about some of those coping skills later in the presentation. Some more practical skills. Follow policies and procedures to keep yourself, your children, and others safe. Make sure you're washing your hands, wearing your face mask, and social distancing. When you're practicing those policies and procedures, when you're doing that, it helps the child to know, okay, these are the things that we need to make sure that we're doing to be safe. If your kids are starting to have symptoms of anxiety and it happened after COVID, it may be because the uncertainty of worrying about, am I going to get this disease? Am I going, is someone in my family going to get this disease? You might have even experienced someone in your family who's gotten it and been real sick. And unfortunately, maybe even had someone in your family who's passed away. And that's added to the anxiety because it's like, now it's really close to home. It's not someone that's far away that we're talking about. These are people that I love and that I'm in contact with. So making sure that you're following the policy and procedures to keep your children safe and yourself by washing your hands and wearing your mask and social distancing. Be sure to check your level of anxiety and depression. I think we already talked about this one. I don't know why I came in here twice, but helping your child to check theirs as well. Show empathy by validating your child's feelings and letting them know they are safe. Sometimes parents will kind of ignore or downplay the child's, oh, nothing's wrong with you. Quit acting, nothing's wrong with you, but validate it. I'm sorry that you're feeling afraid. Can we sit down and talk about what's bothering you and getting to the some of the things that might be contributing to their anxiety would be helpful. We all want our feelings to be validated, and we know what it feels like when people don't validate our feelings. You might not agree with why they're feeling anxious, but they feel anxious. And so therefore, when you say, well, I'm sorry that you're feeling anxious, is there something I can do to help you? Let's talk about it. That makes that child feel more at peace and more safe, that you care. And that in itself is one thing that really helps children when they are dealing with it. It doesn't maybe take away the anxiety symptoms, but it helps them feel more at peace. It feels like somebody's trying to protect them and cares about how they feel. So validating your child's feelings is very important. Model self-care by getting the right amount of sleep, making sure you're eating right, and set aside time for yourself. During this pandemic, it is very, very important. We all had to stay home, maybe working from home. Your children are doing school from home. And the way that getting out and doing things we haven't been able to do that. And so it's important that we set some time aside to do some things, like really put it on a calendar and be intentional about setting self-care, putting that in your schedule with everything else that you have going on. When I talk about self-care, I'm talking about maybe spending time with a family member. If you can't be with them in person, making sure that you have Zoom calls or phone calls with them. Maybe it's just going to sit somewhere and listen to a song or watch a movie together or by yourself, but making sure that you set some time for your child, so that when you do it, it teaches your child how to do it and says it's okay. So finding something that you enjoy, something they enjoy, to get some rest, to get some relaxation. We live in a busy world, and now it seems like the lines are crossed between, like, before, you know, you leave school and school was done and you didn't have to worry about it. But now school and work and everything is, because we have the computer, so it's blurred the lines and the boundaries. And so it's important that you help to set those boundaries and put those boundaries in place for your children, and help your children and also adhere to those boundaries by having times. Okay, you're going to make sure that you're going to be in bed at a certain time. We're going to make sure that you're getting your meals, because when they were in school, they were getting their breakfast in the morning, they were getting their lunch at a certain time. They come home and they would get dinner at a certain time. So you want to make sure that you're still doing those same things by modeling the self-care and providing those things. And that's part of structure as well. Keep connected with family and friends through phone calls, video conferencing. If visiting in person, be sure that you're maintaining social distancing and following procedures for hand washing and mask wearing. Connection is very important, especially for children. Making sure that you stay connected. This, for children, being able to go out and play with their their friends. Now with COVID, that's kind of hard. And even thinking about going out playing with their children, it might bring some anxiety. Playing with other children, it might bring anxiety to them. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're being protected, you know. And so if you're going to let your kids go play with other children, make sure that the families are following through with social distancing and the procedures of hand washing and mask wearing, so that they feel safe. Set clear expectations and structure. Like, this is very important. We're going to talk about the importance of structure for your child. As I said, when a child doesn't know what to expect, it's going to raise their anxiety level. If you're not consistent, it's going to raise your child's anxiety level. For instance, if one minute you're saying that these things are okay, and the next minute they turn around and the rules have changed and they weren't informed, that's going to cause them to be anxious. So we're going to talk about how important it is to make sure you set clear expectations of what you're expecting from your child, and also make sure that you're setting structure for your child. So providing structure can help decrease and or alleviate anxiety in your child. And we're going to talk about ways that can happen. One, it helps your child feel safe. If you're setting clear expectations and you have structure, the child knows what to expect. When children within transitions, for example, if they're going from one house to another house, like their parents aren't together and they have to go to one house to another house, if they know what to expect, like they're going to be going at this time and this day, it helps them feel more relaxed. But if things change and one minute I'm supposed to be there at 5 o'clock, and every day I've been going there at 5 o'clock, and now everything's changing, their thoughts begin to think about, like, what's going on, why did things change, you know. So having that consistency. School, you know, at school they knew exactly when they were going to be doing recess, when they were going to have mass, so it helps them to be safe and feel safe, know what's going to be occurring, and it helps them to stay focused in that area. It helps your children develop a sense of mastery over different situations. What do I mean by that? They begin to see what they're able to do. They get in a groove of, okay, this is how I'm supposed to do this. And it helps them to begin to say, okay, I need schedule for myself, because it helps me to learn what's expected of me and when it's expected of me. So developing a sense of mastery over different situations, they learn how to handle different situations by having structure. Your children learn to manage their environment and themselves by organizing their time and their belongings. When they have structure, What it helps them to do is they have to, for instance, they learn how to manage their time. Okay, when they're in school, they know that I have about this much time to do my schoolwork. Then we're going to have recess. But when they don't have that, what happens is then your child sitting around doing nothing, maybe watching a lot of TV, playing a lot of video games, and then that can also add to what? Your child becoming angry when you tell them, hey, you got to go do your homework, you got to do this. But if they have a structure, if they have a schedule, they know what to expect. I know that I need to do my homework before I can go play these video games. How does that add to the anxiety? If I don't know what I'm supposed to do, then what happens is that I'm going to continue wanting to do things that maybe at the wrong time. For instance, if I'm wanting to be on the video games all day, which that cannot happen because they have school, and I've heard parents say that since COVID started, children not wanting to do their schoolwork because they want to go play and want to be on the video games all the time because what? They're at home. So the lines are like I said, the lines are blurred. They're not sure, okay, I'm supposed to be at home, but I'm supposed to be at school too, because I'm no longer going to a building and being there where I know this structure's at. I'm now at home where this is supposed to be my place of comfort. So these things could be adding to the stress and to the anxiety levels of your children because they don't have a place. So it's important for the parents to make sure that you're having them organize their time and also their belongings, putting their things away. Their toys, their schoolwork, having a certain spot for your children to do homework. If you have the room, saying, okay, this is going to be your place where you're going to do your homework. For me, working from home was a bit different from working in the office. In the office, I knew where everything was. When I came home and had to start working from home, that was a difficult adjustment because I was so used that when I left the door, I knew my day was ending. And so now when I had to start working from home, it was blurred. It was like, okay, I didn't shut off quickly because I didn't have that leaving the office. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is maybe when you have a certain time for your child to do schoolwork and say, okay, at the end of the day, then we're just going to, and I know some people have done this, we're going to leave the house and go for a ride just so that we can change our environment and make it seem like we're doing something different. And that can help with decreasing the anxiety, because if I'm always at school and I'm worried about school, or I don't know the difference between if my mom is my teacher today, if my mom is my mom. So the more structure you can set for your child and the more you can verbalize your expectations with your child, it can help them feel more at ease and more safe. It increases cooperation and eliminates power struggles when you set structure for your children. Helps parents follow through with expectations. If you're setting expectations and you keep with those expectations, then you don't have to remember what you told your child. 6, it provides opportunity to create connection between you and your children. You can set time aside to be able to do things together. If you're always busy doing other things and you don't take time to include that into the structure and spending time with your child, you'll wake up one day and your child will not be connected to you because they don't know you because you've been so busy doing other things, or they are doing too many things and busy. So here's some coping skills to help your child cope with stressors. Learning how to do some deep breathing with your child. And this could be things that you can learn on your own to help your child before going into counseling. But if you go to counseling and they're teaching you deep breathing skills, then this is something that you want to learn, is that you want to learn the interventions that the counselors are teaching your children and practice them with them. So taking some deep breaths, A lot of times when we have anxiety, we don't breathe. We stop breathing correctly. And so it's important to learn how to take the deep breaths. It helps to bring a calming and a peace. And it also helps them to focus on the breathing and not on the problem or the situation that is occurring. Utilizing their senses, the smell, their hearing, their taste, their touch, and their sight, to focus their attention away from the stressor. One of the things you can do is like, what are 5 things that you can see? And having the child focus in on that. What are 4 things that you can touch? What are 3 things that you can hear? What are 2 things that you can smell? And what's something you can taste? What you begin to do is you help the child become mindful of what's going on in the moment, and it takes their mind off of the stressors. With anxiety, a lot of times they're thinking about things that are happening in the future, may or may not happen in the future. And so their mind keeps racing and keep racing. This, by utilizing the 5 senses, helps them to focus on doing mindfulness in the here and now, and it helps them to pay attention and not focus too far in advance. Find an activity to distract them. It can be a crossword puzzle, any kind of activity that you can take your mind off of. It could be watching TV, something that's going to take the child's mind off of the stressor, off of the thing that's causing anxiety. Be creative. Use drawing, coloring, writing, painting, or building something, etc., to help your child. Kids like crafts. They like coloring. And this is something that you can do along with your children, is to take some time out to draw, to color. One of the things that we use in counseling is helping children to draw what they're worried about or anxious about, and to talk about it. Or to draw something opposite of what would make them feel peaceful and make them feel calm. Because then that helps to paint a picture for them, and they can be able to use that picture, that this is the picture that when I feel anxious, I can use to feel calm. And I can look at this picture and to help me to calm down. Some more coping skills. Exercise or doing something physical. Walking, dancing, going for a jog, doing jumping jacks. Once again, it helps you to take your mind off of the situations and the circumstances that may be causing the anxiety for you. Play a game, either a computer game or board games. I'd say with board games, it helps maybe to also help to build those social skills. And during this time, like I said, a lot of kids aren't able to go outside and play and be with their friends. So if they're able to play a board game with a family member or some kind of game, even outside playing basketball with a basketball hoop, it can help them to not focus on the stressors and the things that are causing them anxiety. Watching a funny movie. Like I said, it helps to get your mind off of the situation. These are all exercises and things that you can do with your children to help them to release some stress and also to deal with the situations that are at hand. Listen to music or play an instrument. We want to discuss, we're coming towards the end, talk about what's an action plan that you can use to help your child to alleviate anxiety symptoms if your child is struggling with anxiety. 1, provide structure and consistency to see if that will help to reduce or alleviate symptoms. First, you want to be able to identify, is my child struggling with anxiety? If they are, if you answered yes to several of those questions about anxiety, not questions, but I should say symptoms of anxiety, then you want to say, okay, let's see if maybe if I provide some more structure, will that help to alleviate the anxiety, the symptoms? If it does, then you know that it's probably not clinical. It might be just situational anxiety based on situations. Try positive coping skills to see if that will help to reduce it. Sometimes just learning it, you might not have to go into a counseling situation. If you're able to help the child to learn some different ways of coping that are positive, then you might not have to go into have a counselor for your child. If symptoms don't stop, then I would encourage you to seek a counselor and contact the a mental health agency within your area to see if you can set up an assessment to see if your if your child is struggling with anxiety. And like I said, help your child practice coping strategies and do if they do go to counseling and they're assigned homework assignments, you'll want to learn those coping strategies, and also you want to make sure that the child's doing the homework that's assigned, because that's people who come to counseling and they practice the coping skills and they utilize them in their everyday life and also do the homework. They're the ones who succeed in counseling. If you're just coming and you're not going to do this, not going to change anything. The change has to come within, and that's, like I said, they're there to help come alongside you, to help you to work through situations and circumstances and teach you some positive coping strategies that can help you. But in order for counseling to be successful, is the parent and the child have to make sure that they're actively participating and utilizing the skills outside of counseling. Now, there are times where that medication might be needed. What usually happens is the counselor will probably try maybe a few sessions to see how the child is doing, or maybe even a month to see how the child is doing. And if any of the coping skills are helping, then they might not suggest an evaluation for medication. But if they see that the symptoms are getting worse or not getting any better, then they might suggest to you to have an evaluation done to have medication for your child, see if your child needs medication. Okay. Andrea?
Yes, I'm here. So I'm going to stop the recording now.